What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. Next question, also in the Warriors vein. I know that the Warriors are not yet currently in your top 5 of inner circle contenders, but are they the best of the second tier contenders? And also, what do you think the Dubs have to do in order to get into your inner circle of contenders? Here's the thing. I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up adding them to my inner circle of contenders. They have several specific things that I look for in championship contention, like veteran comfortability in the postseason context. Steve Kerr, I think, is one of the better game planners out there in the league in terms of dealing with the chess match of NBA playoff series. Jimmy and Steph are two of the most reliable playoff stars in the history of the league, and they have a depth of role player talent that's all really good at defense and that have a skill set that fits alongside Jimmy and Steph. So we don't need to be rocket scientists about this. I think they're going to end up making that list sooner than later. Really, I'm just waiting for a few more games, specifically some high leverage games. Like, you want to know why I moved the Lakers into that list? Because they literally, in this recent stretch of games that they've been dominant, they won something like, I think it was 14 consecutive games against teams that were 500 or better. And they beat other teams in that top tier of contenders. I saw Steph and the Warriors beat Boston and OKC earlier in the year in different constructs, which is a big part of why I believe they're going to, and I think things are going to be fine. I just want to see some more of these higher leverage games before I put them in that list, but I think it's almost a certainty that I'm going to put them in there sooner than later. But as far as the actual baseline like concept of what I look at in teams to be a good playoff team that has the actual potential to win 4 playoff rounds, I look at, do you have the star talent that thrives in that setting? Yes, the Warriors do. Do the Warriors have the overall level of like game planning necessary from their coaching staff and from their stars to win chess matches in the postseason? Yes, I think they do. Do I think they have role players that can do enough on offense and defense to compete in that context? Yes, I do. So it's just a question of when. And for the record, I don't even know where I'm putting the Lakers in that list yet either. There's just still so much that's up in the air for them. I just am certain they're in that list. I just don't know where it's going to be. And who knows? Maybe when it's all said and done, I'll have the Warriors and Lakers at 5 and 6. Maybe I'll have the Warriors and Lakers at 3 and 4. I don't know. We're going to come up with that over the course of the next few weeks. We're actually doing a contender video breakdown list that's going to be starting here relatively shortly that you guys can follow along. But here's the thing. It's a great betting opportunity right now on DraftKings. The Warriors are plus 1,400 to win the finals and plus 650 to win the Western Conference, which is tied for third with the Los Angeles Lakers. So they've got a real shot here, and there's a good betting opportunity there at those prices that you guys can check out. Next question. What outcomes do you see from the return of Jonathan Kuminga to the Warriors lineup? Whose minutes does he take? And how does he fit with Jimmy Butler? Seems like he could learn a lot from Jimmy, but I worry as a fan that he's also maybe somewhat redundant now. I hope his return doesn't mess with the chemistry of the Warriors, but I'd love to hear your take. Thanks. Love the show. I had several questions kind of centering around this line of thinking, and it's a very interesting question. And it's a fundamentally different question than when Jonathan Kuminga's injury took place and what it might have looked like if he returned to the lineup without a Jimmy Butler trade, right? Without a Jimmy Butler trade, you look at it as like Jonathan Kuminga is going right back into the starting lineup because there's not enough talent in the starting lineup, and Jonathan Kuminga is one of your most talented players, and you just need to infuse as much talent into that lineup as possible. Now, it's fundamentally different. I guarantee you Jonathan Kuminga has thought a lot in the last couple of weeks, watching the Warriors. I'm better at basketball than Moses Moody. I'm sure he's thought that. And by the way, he's correct to think that. He is a better basketball player than Moses Moody in a vacuum. But circumstances around that have shifted substantially. The Warriors are no longer just a regular play-in team or north of the play-in team type of team that's trying to like grind out a plucky, spunky, we're going to be a pain in the ass, but then lose in the first or second round type of team. They're a team that has legitimate championship aspirations now. They look at it like we're 12-1 in our last 13 games. We have an opportunity now to do something really special. Within that context, in the starting lineup now, with Jimmy in there, with Steph in there, Moses Moody is a better basketball player in that context with what they need with that lineup. I was talking about this. I went on with Ethan Strauss yesterday, and Ethan's just one of the absolute best in the business, and I just really enjoy working with him because he's such a gifted conversationalist, and he always has something very interesting to say. We went for almost an hour and a half yesterday. I highly recommend you guys check that out if you haven't yet, and they do have it on YouTube as well if you go to his YouTube channel. But we were talking specifically about this concept surrounding like The Secret from the old Bill Simmons basketball book, and the idea that these pieces of talent have a habit of like fitting together in a way that's either going to be less than the sum of their parts or more than the sum of their parts based on these intricacies of the way that the game of basketball comes together with a bunch of different types of talent, right? And that's the thing. Like, part of what has led to a lot of success with the recent Warriors run is the shortening of the rotation. And the fact that now that you've cleaned out some of your glut of role player talent and you brought in a star talent, there are these clearly defined roles with the starters now where it's like Brandon Podziemski's going to guard the best guard and Moses Moody's going to guard the best wing, and Pods is going to run a little bit of second side action, but primarily function as like a connective playmaker with the team. And Moses Moody is going to be primarily operating off the ball in the corner as a spot up shooter in those actions. It is all clarified, and it's perfectly accentuated their skill sets. What is Moses Moody great at? Guarding the ball, attacking closeouts, and spotting up, right? What is Brandon Podziemski great at? Ball pressure, defending on the perimeter, defensive rebounding, connective playmaking. And so all of a sudden it's crystallized and those guys are perfect in their roles. If you took Moses Moody out and you put Jonathan Kuminga in there, Jonathan Kuminga would be able to do a good job of guarding the ball. That's always been a specific strength of his, but he's a much worse off-ball defender than Moses Moody. And then playing off of Jimmy and Steph, Moses Moody is a more valuable offensive player because he's more of a reliable catch-and-shoot player. So you got to start zooming out and thinking about the current construct of the team and where Kuminga's skill set can be helpful. And to me, the one thing he's pretty good at right now in the serious basketball context is he's kind of a microwave scorer. Like, he's so talented that, like, on certain nights, he can go for 20, 25, 30 points. Then in other nights, he can be, 4 for 13 from the field and not be a very useful offensive player. We see that archetype succeed even on good playoff teams as a bench microwave scorer. I like the idea of partnering him in bench units with Jimmy Butler without Steph on the floor in these situations where Jimmy can help set him up for opportunities with like cleared side ISOs, get the spacing set up properly. Jimmy can be the floor general to put Jonathan Kuminga in situations to have success as an ISO player or as a post-up type of player, right? And he can do a little bit of that with Steph as well, overlapping with both groups, but in bench groups where they need offense. I don't think he's a guy that's going to step into the starting lineup. I don't think he's a guy who's going to step into the closing lineup. And that's the one kind of like wrinkle with this. Jonathan Kuminga is young. He spent a lot of years not getting consistent opportunity to be aggressive and to be himself because the Warriors were a serious championship contender in the early years of his career. Then finally, it kind of shifts to where there's not much of a championship potential over the course of the last year. And there's not a lot of like reliable secondary shot creation talent. And so they were force feeding Kuminga a lot. And he was getting a lot more opportunities to be an athlete, to score the basketball. But now we've shifted back into that dead serious championship contention phase. And it's one of those things where they're going to have to go back to the old ways where it's like, hey, dude, you're coming off the bench. And if you're playing good, we're going to ride you. And if you're not, we're probably going to pull you. And that's the new dynamic that is the old dynamic that Kuminga was facing in years past. And so there is a certain question mark as to whether or not Kuminga is going to be willing to do this. And if he kicks and screams and he doesn't want to fit into the larger goals of the team, it's going to end up hurting his opportunities in the rotation. I'm hopeful that Kuminga will see the opportunity and embrace it and lean into it and just be like, hey, Kerr is crafting out a role for me now where I can come in with these specific bench units and he wants me to be aggressive. But then if he ever wants to see the floor in a larger context, in closing time, things along those lines, he's going to have to really, really parse down his game into a smaller role that Kerr is looking for from him in those groups. And so that's going to be the challenge. It's going to be a little bit of Kuminga embracing a role. It's going to be a little bit of Kerr trying to actually build out roles for him in specific lineups. But there's no doubt that the circumstances have changed since he got hurt, and it's going to be a little bit different than it looked the last time he was playing for this team.